I am in the receptive mode and I'm feeling really good. Is it necessary for me to take action to make things happen? The answer to that is no. It is not necessary for you to take action to make things happen because universal forces are lining things up. However, you will be inspired to act, but it won't be the action that makes it happen. It's hard to hear because you're action oriented. If you could let your action be the way you enjoy the true fruits of your labor, rather than trying to make the action be the labor itself, things would go so much better for you. And so the key is to act when I feel inspired, not because I need to. And that was the game Esther was playing with herself the other day. She didn't want to act out of need. She didn't want to motivate herself. She wanted to be inspired. She wanted it to come from the vortex, but it took a little while.
Well, and the action that I speak of is not even unpleasant. I mean, it's pleasant action. I love my ideas and I love being able to help people. And
then what are you talking about?
I want to flow down the river and just let it be handed to me. And I do feel it's not even guilt anymore.
But that's the way this sweet spot that we've been talking about of thoughts turning to things is. Things are just handed to you. They come in the form of an idea and then another idea and then a rendezvous and then another idea and then a rendezvous and then an impulse to go somewhere and do something with someone. It is all handed to you. But there's something in the human psyche that goes something like, things shouldn't just be handed to me, I should earn it, I need to deserve it. So we spend some time wanting to convince you that you are deserving of it. We're talking with the young father with the little baby earlier, and we started this conversation about not encouraging your baby or anyone, and no longer doing it yourself so much, of replacing your inner being with other people. But so many of you have done that already, where you're trying to get the marks on the chart or you're seeking approval from someone, and so you have gotten into the habit of acting, because when you get a job, usually the person who's paying you is expecting some action from you. It would be very odd if you just showed up at work and just sat there and your employer says, what's going on? And you say, I'm waiting for inspiration. And your employer would give you some inspiration. That's really more like motivation. Do this or else. And so it's a way you've sort of trained yourself. You've become far more reliant on action, and you're using action in a way that you never intended. Instead of getting into the receptive mode and following the flow of the energy, what most people do is they don't do that, and then they try to use action to compensate. And that's why the analogy of the toaster not being plugged in is such a good one. You're trying to get results out of a toaster that's not plugged in. And that's why so much of your action, it makes you feel tired, it makes you feel weary, it makes you feel unproductive. Where when you're really tuned in, tapped in, turned on, then. So let's get to the heart of this question. So how do I go about that? And we say the answer is momentum. And then you say, well, tell me more about momentum. And we say momentum simply means have a thought and don't contradict it. That really is the definition of momentum. Have a thought and don't contradict it. Esther has been playing with some friends, and they lived in another state, and they've been talking about moving to California for years. So this momentum has been underway, soft momentum. And it was momentum that came up in conversations like, wouldn't it be fun, and wouldn't it be nice if, and wouldn't it be fun if we could play together out there sometimes, and very light like that. And then the conversations got more specific, and they made the decision that they wanted to move there, even though they have a really robust business somewhere else. They really began thinking about that. And they weren't thinking about how it was going to come, or when it was going to come, or where it was going to come from, or who was going to bring it about. They're just thinking about, wouldn't it be nice if, wouldn't that be fun? So it became pretty constant in the conversation that Esther had with these friends, because she spends some time out there, and she just thought it would be lovely if they were there too. And then their conversation turned, as the momentum began to gather a little bit of steam, to things like how much fun we have when we are together here, and how many places we like to go and do fun stuff when we are here, and how many lovely restaurants there are here, and how nice it is to walk on the beach here, and not trying to make anything happen. They were just sort of milking what they all could feel like momentum. They could feel that there was subtle momentum going, and they began milking it, not to make anything happen, but for the pleasure of the milking of it. That was their agreement with each other. We'll talk about this if it feels good. So every now and again, one of them would call the other of them when they felt inspired to do so, when there was a little momentum going. And then a job opened up for one of them. A significant job opened up. And the question was, so do we take that job? Well, don't take any action until you can't stand not to take the action, was sort of the agreement that they had. And so as this began unfolding, Esther said to them, because she happened to be there, and they made the move, he took the job, everything is unfolding, and Esther said to her friends, I'm going to be out there for about 2 weeks during such and such a time, and I have about 4 days that I could focus with you as you move into your new house. That was all that was said. And then momentum started flowing. They were hanging around together, and they'd get an impulse to go over there, or to go over there, or to go over there. And in 4 days, they found everything from top to bottom that was necessary for this house with such ease and flow, and really very little spending of money because of the way it was unfolding, that Esther has been saying to anyone who she can pin down to listen to her, those were 4 of the most fun days I've ever lived in my entire life. So now she's trying to figure out why. What was so fun about it? Why did it feel like that? And then as she listens to us, we go on and on about the vortex, and we talk about the sweet spot, and she realizes, hey, we were in the sweet spot. So what are the components of being in the sweet spot? What does Abraham mean by that sweet spot? Well, we weren't trying to make anything happen, and we're all in love with each other, and there was zero criticism about anything, there was zero worry about anything, and there was zero effort about anything. It was just, how much fun can we have together while we're doing this? Well, we know that you've had some of those experiences yourself, but until you've had them and you make the association between the words that we're saying here and the law that we are presenting to you with these words and the actual experience of what it feels like to you when you get into the flow, and here's why. Here's why this works the way it does. Through life, you have put endless things into your vortex, which means your inner being who stands in your vortex, in this vibrational reality, knows where you stand in relationship to everything you want, knows where you are in relationship to everything you want, and here are the most important words, and knows the path of least resistance to call you to them. Now, those are really important words. Path of least resistance. Let's make it clear. Your path of least resistance. Let's make it clear. Your path that you have put resistance on your trail. Your inner being knows where all of your bugaboos are, where all of your hang-ups are, where all of those engines are likely to be. Your inner being knows where everything that is potentially in your way is in terms of the thoughts that you think. And your inner being is calling you over and around and under and through all of that resistance. So if you are following your joy as you want to do but are really a little reluctant about, if you're following your bliss, if we are really doing a sales job and you are hearing it, that if you could get into that place where you're not acting out of need but acting out of want, not acting because somebody else wants you to, but acting because you want to, really following the inspiration, while it will be slow going in the beginning, because frankly most of you have been motivating yourself by what will go wrong if you don't act for so long that it's going to take a little bit of adjustment for you to do things because you want to do them. But we promise you it is really worth turning that corner and understanding that, because of all of the power that's in your vortex and all of the knowledge that your inner being holds, and because of all of the rendezvous and what you want to call coincidences that will line up for you and give you not only the results that you're looking for, but the ride that you want along the way. You've been saying, we hear you say it to each other all the time, the joy is in the journey. And there's rare one of you that even understands what that means. Because you mean the joy is in the journey on the way to where I really want to be, which is my destination. That's what you mean when you say the joy is in the journey. The joy is in the journey on my way to where I really want to be. And if where you really want to be is taking a higher priority within you than the journey that you want to be on, then it's out of balance still, you see. So we are really encouraging you to find a handful of things that you really like to do and just do them as much as you can, so that you will put yourself in a place of feeling some of the blessedness that you really deserve to feel. But even as we ask you to act like that, take this action of pleasure, we realize that we're contradicting our own message a little bit, because we really don't want you to act. We want you to find thoughts that get so big that you can't refuse them anymore. We want the thought to be so big that you can't refuse the inspiration of it anymore. But in order to do that, you got to start in this place where you stop contradicting the thought. You've got to let your thoughts become powerful. You've got to let a thought of your desire get enough momentum that it calls you. It's already called your inner being, and it's already called all of the other cooperative components. You're the last one who's holding out. So you've got to get enough momentum going that your desire can call you into that flow, into that stream. And the only way that will happen is you have to stop putting contradictory thoughts on the other end of your train. That's the only way. We tell a story on a really regular basis. It's our favorite story that makes this point so powerfully. We want to tell it every time we're with any of you. Esther was doing a telephone consultation some years ago. Abraham was talking to a woman. Esther was allowing it. And the woman was stubborn about the conversation. She wasn't having any of it. She didn't want to know how to create her own reality. She wanted to know how to get what she wanted. And she didn't want it to be her responsibility, and she didn't want other people to keep messing it up as they had been doing. This was a conversation she wanted to have with us, and she really wanted a sort of fortune telling from us. And we wanted to teach her how to create her own reality. And so we realized that she was not hearing us, and so we changed the subject. We started talking about blue glass, which was just annoying to her. But we kept it up for over a minute, and then we changed the subject again to butterflies, which was annoying to her again, but we kept it up for over a minute, and then we changed the subject to feathers, which annoyed her. She couldn't understand why we would want to talk about these things that she didn't care about instead of the things that she really wanted to talk about. But the reason was, what she wanted to talk about was so balled up in resistant thought that she couldn't hear anything that we were saying. We could not possibly, even though we were speaking words right into her ear, we could not give her a suggestion that would inspire her to anything that would work for her. Paralyzed in her own life experience, so to speak. So we told her the story of the blue glass and the butterflies and the feathers, and she hung up. She was not happy. She later asked for her money back. This was not a satisfying conversation at all. And Jerry and Esther were in California. They were in La Jolla, and they went to lunch. That was their plan right after the conversation. And Jerry had not heard it, only Esther, and Esther had not really heard it. It was flowing through her, but it's different the way she hears when this is happening. So they got out of the car and began walking down the street toward the restaurant that they had chosen. And there were many, many shops along this street. And Esther just felt a really strong impulse to go into the first shop. And Jerry didn't want to go. He wanted to go eat. He was hungry. And Esther said, just for a minute, come with me just for a minute. So she dragged him in, kicking and screaming. And in the back of the store was a wall of blue glass. All kinds of glassware, art, so many different pieces of blue glass, all different shades of blue, different textures. And it didn't mean anything to Esther. She just looked at it and she said, oh, never mind. And off they went. The blue glass didn't ring a bell with Esther at all. And then they had lunch, and then they went down to the water's edge. And as they were walking across the lawn on their way to the ocean, a flurry of butterflies that was so intense surrounded them. And so intense they had to stop talking to not eat them. And still, Esther is not making any connection with the activation of these subjects that we had accomplished earlier. And so, as they're walking out of the butterflies, a little boy is running across the lawn from quite a distance. And Jerry said, look, he looks like he's coming to you, Esther. He looks like he thinks he knows you. And as Esther looked at him, he walked up to her and he handed her a feather that he had picked up off the grass, a pigeon's feather. And then Esther realized what had happened, that within a couple of hours of these subjects, which hold no resistance in Esther's vibration at all, the universe just delivered them all to her. Boom, 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 boom. Because when something's active within you that you're not contradicting, then the momentum carries you to the manifestation. That's just how it works. So if you have desires that you're not moving, that the manifestations aren't unfolding quickly, it's for one reason and one reason only. The momentum is not being allowed by you. And there are only two reasons for the momentum to not be allowed. Either you're asleep, so you're not focused, or you are focused in opposition to